Control it.
If the people on town board would have some common sense. Hey, Christie.
Hello,
Hey,
how are you?
Tom. I'm good.
No, we can walk back there.
I'm good.
I'll just, no. I don't recall that one. Just a ball. Yeah.
David's
Yeah,
out of
David's
town.
out.
Started his.
Okay, and board, before we get started, I had Jessica, our new administrative services director, has kind of picked up the bit with the monthly talking points. So I know that it's almost February and here's January's. So here you go. And then when you get February, it will be on time and it'll probably look really like this one does, because this one's kind of a mid-January update. But I wanted to pass that around. Please let me know if you have any questions. I am sorry that if you guys have had any substantive questions this month and that you didn't answer.
Okay, so.
Okay, so we're gonna get started. I think this is all the folks that we expected on the board. You have everybody you need on your side? Okay. So we're gonna get going with our town board work session for January 21, 2019 at 6:01 PM. Again, the goal of this work session and our work sessions in general is to have the town board receive information on topics of town business. So we have two items this evening. The first item is the Parks Facility Update. And you're gonna take off and lead that, Eric?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Before we get started, I thought because we have our consultants here, maybe we go around the room real quick and do some introductions so that you all know who they are and vice versa. So, Dan, do you want to start off?
Hi, I'm Dan Spicer, I'm with Wimber, I'm the owner's rep for the project.
Hello, I'm Randall Johnson with Infusion Architects, I'm an architect on the project. Ryan Haymeyer with FCI Constructors, we're the contractor for the project.
Everybody knows Terry and myself.
Kim Ewell.
Ken Bennett, town board.
Barry Wilson, Town Board.
Christy Melendez, Mayor of Windsor.
Miles Baker, Town Board.
Tom Jones, town board.
Paul Rennemeyer, town board. And just so the board knows, Dan's daughter Lexi actually works for the Parks and Rec department. So she's a bright, engaging, lovely young lady, so you'd never put it together by meeting Dan.
So on the screen I'm passing around right now is the PowerPoint slides for you to look at. Sometimes it's hard to see things on the screen up there. But the reason we're here tonight is to provide you follow-up as we promised during the budget discussions on the parks maintenance facility update as well as the museum collections. As you saw in my memo, I think, as you saw in my memo, you probably realized that this project it really has morphed from the original intent. So I don't even know if we should call it, just Parks Facility Maintenance Update anymore. It really is Public Service Campus expansion. So we're going to go through that tonight, step by step, following along with your memo that you have before you. In the packet you have is an overall site plan that you can refer to throughout the presentation to kind of give you an idea of where things are that we're talking about as we go along. So just for some orientation, over here is 15th Street. These kind of, I'm a little colorblind, so it's a little like brown or tan is existing buildings. This is where the recycling center move is occurring right now. This area right here, when we talk about public works, covered storage unheated is right here. Losing my mouse in the white there. This is the parks maintenance facility in this area. This blue is the museum collections. When we talk about site improvements, you hear me, and you'll see on the screen and in the memo, talk about expanded material storage bins, site improvements such as drive lanes and those kind of things, those fall into this area. And then when we get into the administrative building, that's this expansion off of the current administrative building area. So if you want to refer, if you need to refer back kind of where it's at on the site, that's the slide to flip back to.
Well, and then of course, if you get lost at any moment, please just let us know and we can circle right back.
Absolutely. So jump right into the Parks Maintenance Facilities section of this. As shown, this facility is a little under 13,000 square feet. About 8,400 of it is heated. It provides 3 drive-through bays. One of them really is for the bucket truck, which is this longer bay here. Chemical room, forestry and horticultural storage space for all of our equipment needs, such as landscaping, irrigation, those kind of things. This area over in here that's green is the heated area, and then this is about a 4,500 square foot area of unheated covered storage. We have thought about how this would potentially be modified in the future in terms of we could put bay doors going out to the north of the unheated, in thinking that in the future the Takinkala Park site will be to the north. So at some point when that builds, we'll be able to actually leave the building going north and directly into the park to do maintenance on that park. If you remember, that park's about 50 acres or so, quite a large site.
And right now, we don't have, staff doesn't need it to be heated. I think we can do all the work that we need to do with this mixture, but 10 years from now, the town has grown, we're still seeing what we're seeing now. This can easily be retrofitted to being heated, and then we could add on again to it more unheated bays if we needed it. So we're really trying to balance kind of the needs of now, thinking about the future, but also not spending so much on the future that we're kind of ignoring the economic realities today.
Right. And this site is, this space as it sits there today is about 7,000 square feet less than what was originally designed out of Diamond Valley, but does not include office space. The office space is over in the administration side, so there's a little bit of differences in terms of, and I'll get into that later when we talk about budget, but there's a little bit of differences in space in terms of what we had originally planned at Diamond Valley versus what you're seeing here tonight. So just giving an architectural look or feel of the facility, these are the unheated storage areas here. These two down here are, you start to get into the heated piece. In the next couple slides, when we get into the museum building is actually this end right down in here. The original estimate, again, that included office space and some more square footage for the whole site, and it was heated at the time, was 6.4. This building is estimated at 1.9 million. So then that gets us into the museum maintenance or museum storage facility. It's a little over 5,000 square feet. It really is a functional museum collection storage facility, HVAC climate controlled, has fire suppression, so that if for, God forbid we were to have fire, we would not ruin the pieces that we have in our archives there. It includes restrooms for both sides of the building. There's a little small storage space over here, about 100 square feet for IT. So I'll give you an example. Last week I came here to town hall in the middle of the day, and the UPS driver or FedEx driver had dropped off a bunch of computers that IT had delivered, and they're just sitting in the back hall, and then IT's trying to find places in this building to store them. This gives them a place that they can have it secured, drop the computers off, and then as they disperse them throughout whether it's throughout the year or throughout the town, whenever they need them, they're there secure, not stuck in someone's office or just a hidey spot here in town hall.
And this gives the ability, because when we first met with Corinne and IT staff, they talked about the space they needed to secure their computers, but putting that space in the office building was a lot more expensive square footage. So this was an opportunity, and I appreciate Eric's and Terry's constant flexibility to work together, but this gave us a chance to give them like a little cage to do it, where they can take and process, 5 to 10 computers at a time, in their offices, and not have, kind of all these annual replacements that they're working on and that they need to secure. So,
what's the current square footage of our museum storage?
About almost 1,900 square foot, which is the second story of art and heritage.
I just wasn't sure what the square footage was.
and I will tell the board that Eric and I and the team have talked about what happens if we shrink this space in the museum, because I know the museum has been, everybody looks at, my gosh, look at the cost of this thing, and can we save some money here? But the square footage isn't really what's driving this. It's the climate control, the HVAC, and the fire suppression. And so it doesn't scale the same. We can't knock 20% off of the square footage and save 20%. This is really a fairly no frills box that just happens to have really specialized fire suppression and a specialized HVAC.
So in theory, could you make it bigger without adding much cost, because it's mostly in the climate control?
Right, yeah, I guess I would count that would, but.
I'm not saying we need it, but
Right,
you could.
yeah, I still hope, I mean, for me, this would be, in 10 years, 15 years, at some point, the town of Windsor can actually take the step of actually having a museum and having a lot of these collections there, which is why we've talked about all the time, like, okay, well, if this needed to be future park shops, future public works, so we're really trying to multi-purpose all these things. And, you know, one thing that we have in here is kind of an add-all is the storage in the rail system. And so that is something that eventually will be in here, but, you know, right now we have 2,000 square feet where everything's basically on the floor, and we have some shelving. I think when we have the ability to have an actual collection facility that's designed for that, we're gonna make really good use of that space. So I don't think it needs to be bigger, I think that 5,000 is enough, but I'm just saying if we said make it 4,000, the cost per square foot are just going up.
And the ceiling height in this is higher than what we have now, so you can stack.
Significantly,
Yeah.
yes.
So you really are gaining a lot of.
We are.
Where is it at in that building that we're looking
So
at?
it's this portion right here.
Yeah.
So, can you see where the cursor's at?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That basically is the dividing wall between, so to the right is the museums, to the left is Park Shop.
Yeah, if you look at that, the plan's been updated, that main overhead doors moved closer to the corner from the
Right.
rendering, but, it is that in. Really no windows or anything in there, they don't want or need sunlight coming in and damaging.
Right, this is
anything.
not
It's pretty
open to the
natural.
public, so it's just,
Correct.
right, and access door, you brought up doors, access doors, I'm assuming are wide enough to get,
Yeah,
probably double white doors or something.
yeah. And only one, cause that's where your highest level of leakage comes in.
Right, energy.
So we do have one that's big enough to get things in and out, but there's only one, so we can make sure we can keep it as tight as possible.
And Dr. John?
Oh, yeah, maybe I missed it. Did you say the museum part was expandable later on if
Yes.
you needed it?
Well,
It could, our goal is hopefully, like, I think Shane hit the nail on the head in terms of, you know, we were hoping that someday there's a downtown museum that has a collections facility, and then this space can become something else, whether that's parks, public works, or something unknown in terms of maintenance space or storage space for something. That moves us into the Public Works covered storage area. This is adjacent to their heated storage. It can easily be converted into, similar to what was on the park side where it was convertible into heated if needed. It gives them 4,500 square feet of covered unheated space where they can, it has the large bays where they could put a snowplow in there in the summer if they wanted to. It allows them to really utilize their current cold storage that has the smaller doors in a better way. And then you can see the cost on here as well.
Right, and this really addresses, and I'll let Terry speak, but with the current site, we have some storage right now where the bay doors aren't tall enough, and so we really don't have enough cover for all their equipment. I think in our discussions, maybe these lease vehicles, these things we get back in 3 years, those don't necessarily need to be heated, you know, because we're turning back in, it's just kind of a lease and go every 2 years anyway. But this would give Public Works some nice expansion as well. And then just, you know, allowing ourselves the opportunity to make these heated in the future. As Public Works grows, if we need to come back in 5 years, and shoot me now, please, we're not back here in 5 years, but when we need to come back at some point in the future, we'll be able to, again, plug on and add a couple more unheated storages. So as they grow, we'll be able to address those needs.
Now, I could be wrong from back when Public Works opened, but I thought during the tour, the trucks that were in the heated portion were awful sandwiched in there already the way it was. I thought that we needed this as heated, not unheated, I mean, whenever
No,
we did it.
we're okay with it being unheated because at least all the equipment's out of the weather. You know, that's what we're concerned with. So, if we can put plow trucks in there, that's gonna give us, room to put at least 6 more large pieces of equipment in there. And so some of the smaller equipment, like the little brooms and the tractors and stuff, we can take to cold storage, and that's gonna free up more space in here. This was the original plan when we did the first phase
Right,
anyway, so we're finally getting those added on, so that's gonna be a great help.
The next piece that we move into is the administrative offices building. This one is probably the biggest building that you see here, 6,700 square foot administrative expansion, and it really does touch a multitude of departments, not only on this site but town hall as well. So I'll go through the schematic for you. Over here in the blue on the left is the park side. It includes office space with one growth office for Parks in the Future. It allows us to do our team meetings and those kind of things within the park's offices, the way it's designed. Losing my mouse here. To the north, that is the IT section. It has office space for them as well, and storage facility and a workable kind of workstation area. Right now, you might go into their offices now and someone's actually working on a computer, has the guts of the computer out on their work, like at their desk, where here they actually will have the ability to be working on a computer or something in a true workspace environment. Over here on the right is HR. It has a growth space of one additional office as well with lockable storage in terms of all the records that they keep. The public service director office is here. There are in this, I think that's yellow, there are 3 growth point offices for public works. What's not shown but mentioned in the memo in this schematic is in the current building that Public Works has, there's a small conference room. The project converts that conference room into 2 offices for them as well. It's not shown in the schematic because it's in the other building. There's common area here in the middle, kind of break room, but also stand up and taller seating for just casual meetings. People get out of the office. It's a typical workspace in today's generations. There's also some open office space here with some expandable growth points here. There are bathrooms and 2 meeting rooms in this area here. One of them is here in this area, and one is down here kind of in the lobby area, where if someone from the outside was coming in and you wanted to meet with them, you could meet with them out there and not have to actually go into the building. This building also is designed that if we needed to expand in the future, we could go to the north as well off of the IT area up here on the green. So as you can see, this building really does, and it's broke out on the left of the screen there for you, but it really does provide a lot of square footage for a variety of different departments.
And before we leave that, if we go
Yeah.
back, so I just want to skip past, one is we do have a second entrance there.
Yeah.
So, one thing that's gonna allow us to do is like, Terry just brought up, the conference room is a little bit of a burden for Public Works, and as far as how we have the security up front and having people come in after hours and how they access the room. So this will give us the ability, I think, to let the community use that room more often, because we'll have another entrance. And then, it's pretty slick too, because we have another little conference room off of this, so if we have, you know, if salesmen or whoever needs to come for Public Works or whoever else, I think we have a little bay where they don't necessarily need to get back into the staff office area. So we're trying to, again, I think, take a look at, you know, Public Works has been in the building a little bit over a year. I think they can kind of identify, if I had it to do over again, this is what I would do. And a lot of that is just from using it and thinking about it a little bit differently. So this is just one of the things we really try to say, how can we make this better for everybody?
Are we talking about that conference room being the same size as the one that we have out there?
Oh, no,
It's a small room.
Oh,
It'd
okay.
be like 6 or 8 people.
I was trying to,
No, it's less than the size of this room.
okay.
So my question would be, is this big enough for Public Works? Because originally this was their space, and now it looks like they, I mean, are being overtaken by everybody else and have
This
much
is all
smaller
new.
space.
This is all new. Everything here, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is not, okay,
No, this is
they're
not a
keeping what they already have,
Yeah,
this
no,
is in
no.
addition to what they
To-
already
That's
have.
right, correct.
To help
Okay.
answer that though, in the future, if we ever needed to expand on, we do have the ability of our present building to be able to go
Okay,
south.
I thought this was kind of an addition and then a reconfiguration of where you already were, I'm like,
That's a good
we're
question.
all
That's a great
along.
question.
So
Like,
the
where's
only
people that go?
reconfiguration is they've got a little conference room that are kind of back, like where all their, like Brian, all those guys' office have a conference room. They don't really use it that often. And so, we're going to put up a wall there and basically create 2 offices. We'll have, one normal size office and one larger one, so they can either use the larger one, it's still a
Okay.
small meeting room, or another office, so that's really the only thing that's happening on that side of the
So
house.
they're getting another 935 in addition to what
Yes,
they
ma'am.
already have.
Correct.
Yes.
And so,
So-
now where's the conference room that folks will be able, our folks, like, community folks would be able to use? Because you're gonna redo something with theirs, is it the one in the blue?
No, it's not this
Little on the
one.
bottom.
It is the big conference room that we've all met in. For example, when Shane was.
That's still staying?
Being interviewed.
Oh, yes.
That's still staying, that's what he's talking about. What he's referring
Oh,
to
okay.
is the entrance, which is in this
You
area.
always
I
have a
can-
separate
Might be able to
entrance.
show you better on the next slide.
So that still will be, and only that space, we're not gonna be doing anything publicly with any of these other spaces, at least that we know of.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think
Okay.
that's gonna still be the main conference room. Again, that's kind of the beauty of, instead of building a whole new space, of really going into the
Okay.
existing space, because like.
Because I think MPO is scheduled to have that room next,
Right.
by,
Well-
in next December,
Well,
so.
Mayor, they still have it.
Just need to know.
I would also point out here, like here, I think we have a small little, area for people to like get coffee and water, but the actual break room, kitchen is still part of the
Right.
original
Oh, okay.
Public Works campus. So we've got, anything like a conference area, that kind of stuff, why have two of them? So,
Right.
we're just gonna kind of work together. So yeah, all this is new.
So to show you the growth point that Terry was referencing, this end of the building down here, which is on the southern end of the existing building, could go to the south a little bit if they needed
Okay.
expansion in the future. This portion here is the new building that we were just looking at on the previous slide.
Oh.
And it could, right here, come to the north if needed.
Okay.
So there's still some growth points in terms of the facility.
Well,
The entrance that Shane's referring to, you can't really see it. It's behind this tree and right in here, so that you could go in the main doors, which are currently the ones you all walked in, as well as down this little concourse into the other.
So this really sits this way.
Yes.
Yes, it goes.
Yes.
this way.
That's right.
You're
So,
correct.
so instead of just having one really long wall for people to look at, it kind of L's and
Yeah,
gives
we
a
made an
little
L
bit of
shape.
dimension.
Correct.
I think it's a good point, Terry, both brought it up. It was pretty evident early on that we had more need than we had space to actually go to the south where it was designed to. So we went to the north and kind of held it like Shane had said, but the other nice piece about that is it does give Public Works a place to grow more too if they need to down the road.
Yeah, because right now we're showing 3 growth offices for Public Works. I mean, depending on how things go, we could say 2 of them can go to Public Works, and 1 goes to HR, because that's just kind of where the needs are. So we're showing that space right now. We want to give ourselves room, but as we go, I think that, again, within the next decade, we're building on south. We're building onto that building for Public Works. I also want to mention that we have IT and HR that are proposed to go over there. But these are departments that really can be in any city facility. So at some point, we're gonna be looking at this building again, we're gonna say, geez, we're built again. So we've also allowed some growth points in there of just saying that, and I don't even wanna say this, cause somebody from HR is watching this, like, I haven't even moved yet, and you already tell me I gotta move again. They're gonna be upset, but really, we could, as Public Works and Parks really grows out, we do have some space in this building to grow into before we're doing those additions. So we're trying to leave ourselves as many options down the road as possible. You really think this through. So no matter what scenario this town sees as growth, we've thought at least a couple steps ahead of it. So I just want to mention that as well.
So is Parks and Rec gonna keep the offices at the rec center that they have right now?
Yeah, so that's those are the rec offices and running in the recreation center and recreation programs. This is just park offices.
So right now, yeah, basically all the offices, we're reduplicating what we have right now with the school district.
Right.
So just those folks, so Wade and Bob and Ken
And
and
their folks.
all their part-time staff.
So, that's a good question, I was gonna ask that, but in addition, how much space does that free up here?
So
Obviously, there's gonna be quite a bit of people
So
there.
by moving IT and HR, it frees up almost 1,600 square feet here. So basically that HR area and the IT area for changes that might occur here,
So-
growth point.
I've had preliminary discussions with staff. I really want to, until we get a community development director on board, but kind of my vision for where the IT is right now, I would like to see that serve maybe building permits, community development. I'd like to have a planner or two in there, an engineer, and some other folks, so we really have that kind of public facing, you know, when the development community comes in and people doing building. Right now, we've got Robin working in a thimble sized office, trying to, you know, and like everything hinges on her, and she's in 5 square feet trying to work, so I really see that IT space is really focusing more on that. And then on the HR space, I mean, we've got plenty of growth. Even if we close those doors for a couple of years and grow into them, that's fine. I'd rather have them now because, you know, we literally we're out of room in this building. We don't have anywhere else to go.
So we kind of touched on all the bullet points that are on this slide here, other than the cost of this facility, but you can see the architectural renderings of the administrative site again. It's pretty much this area here, and then just a different look at it in that direction. That moves us into, I had talked about early on when I was showing you the orientation of the site in general. Site improvements and their costs, things like earthwork, water, sewer, fencing, the drive lanes, the expanded material storage that I'd mentioned. As we've gone through all of our lists of needs for all the departments, you know, we've tried to address the key ones. And so what you see over here on the right is some items on lists that we've made with the intention of adding them as bid or add alternates, so the contractor will get pricing on them. As we get into budget, you'll see we're hopeful that there's potentially some money left over later on in the project that we can come back and go, hey, you know, can we add something? If not, at some point, I would expect some of these items to come back in a future budget, as they are needs, but they didn't get ranked amongst all of our discussions as the highest or utmost need to add at this point in order for us to remain in or under the budget that was presented and passed by the board.
Right. And I would say, you know, anything that I look at there is bid alternative, I would tell the board, if we don't do it as part of this project, it's very likely we're back here in 2020 talking about it. So everything up there is important, but it's things that we can live without right away. But you know, so to some extent, you know, we have really right now a really big contingency in there, which is appropriate because we're still pretty early. But as prices start to come in and we hear that money's kind of freed up, you know, I intend to work with staff to really prioritize these. Because again, if we don't do it now as a part of this project, it's just stuff that we're gonna have to do anyway. So I hope to be able to kind of prioritize through these and roll most of these into this project to the extent that the budget allows.
What's decant facility?
Decant facility is a concrete apron or some way to contain everything once you wash down, like your plow trucks, street sweepers, vac trucks, so you keep all that stuff to where you can pick it up and discard of it so it doesn't go down the storm drain. It meets all of our MS4 standards.
So think about just like a big concrete pad that's sloped enough to where all the wet goes off and leaves all the solids behind. So like our street sweeper and other things that you really don't want to put down in your storm system. So that's basically right.
Right.
It's a big concrete pad.
What are we doing with it now?
Right now, it goes in our wash bay area, but we're always having to clean that out,
Yeah.
you know? So if we started doing the plow trucks and everything, then it's really gonna get monotonous to do that. So that's why we want to include a facility.
I don't know that I saw this in the packet, but what's the price tag on some of these bid alternatives? I mean, do we have preliminary estimates on what they would all, you know, be if the board decided to move forward with certain things?
I know we do for the fuel tank expansion, the exhaust fan in the wash bay,
I think we have them all, I don't
Overhead
know
doors.
off the top of my head, all of them,
but
Right, and so these would be something, Paul, again, if we come in and it turns out we have 300,000 of our contingency is freed up and we know we can move forward.
Sure.
We'd come back and say, staff has talked, we'd like to do this, this, and this, here's the cost. And so it would be, again, I think we put a number to all these things, but they're just, at this point, things that, you know, like, it'd be nice to asphalt the whole campus, but we've got rotomillings down. It's not ideal, but it's something that we can live with. And so I think that'd be 300,000 or so. It's just when you compare that to, is the museum big enough? Do we have enough office space? It fell out, but I think overall it's gonna be something that we're gonna say we wanna asphalt the campus. So, yes, sir.
Are there any of these things that are essential for health, safety, or environmental concerns, like you mentioned MS4 regulations are coming on? Is there anything that?
No, I think anything that we
Okay.
would fall into that category is
Okay.
in front of the port already.
Okay.
So is the cost right there, the site improvements? Is that
That's what-
factored, is that
Yes, that's
factored in
into the budget, it is.
already here?
Mhm.
Where does it show up here then? Is it
So
under the
that-
construction?
That's under construction.
And who or what qualifies as consultants?
So that
On that
is
price
the Wember group, the architect group, the engineers, those folks.
Geotechnical engineer, materials testing, things like that.
And we're over budget there by about 20 grand.
No, we're under
Under
budget.
We're under
Under
budget.
budget.
So on the left, you'll see what we had originally budgeted,
That's-
entering our discussions before we got to the schematic design, which is what we're at today.
So
On the-
estimated is what you think the cost is gonna be?
Estimated is what our contractor is telling us we would, they believe would be in that range. As you can see, there's a health contingency, which is this number right here. And then,
So it could come in even less. And you're gonna have a project manager
So
on this project?
that is
That's
Dan.
Wember.
Okay.
That's Wember.
Okay,
And they serve as our representative for
Okay.
the whole project.
Permits and fees.
That's just a kind of a swag, because we don't know exactly what that
Like
number is.
things like the fire district, you know, a lot of times they do charge for fire stuff, so we haven't had a chance to speak to them about that. So that's kind of, right now, maybe it goes away, but until we've had those conversations with those outside agencies, we're not certain. So obviously like building permits, use tax, none of that stuff applies, but
We also have to get Excel in there for power and gas. So we're there right now, looking at what the cost is gonna be to bring that in from the road.
I have a question about, when you have the administrative offices, the cost to build, it says not include the original budget.
So what I meant
You
by
must
that.
add something.
Yeah, so
in
what
the
I meant by
original
that, if you
budget.
remember, that was, the original budget of 8.2 was designed on a parks maintenance facility of 20,000 square feet.
With offices.
Heated offices, all the bays were heated, and then the 5,000 square foot with the museum was the 1.7. So what I was trying to express there in that comment is that we had originally budgeted X for what we were going to build at Diamond Valley, and so that's a different number here because it's expanded in terms of the
yeah,
use, but
you're looking
not.
at a ladder and say it was this and now it's this, because it wasn't there.
Right.
And then
Two different
Correct.
Right,
concepts.
and then the second thing is because we've added IT, HR, and Public Works, really it wasn't budgeted, because we're trying to get a lot more in.
So just to summarize, what you're seeing on the screen is we budgeted 8.2. The estimate through schematic design is 8.1 with a very healthy contingency. We feel, where we're at today, we can accomplish not only what was in the original scope, but a whole lot more. And I will tell you that the process has been fabulous. I hope I'm speaking for the rest of the folks behind me. But working with Terry and folks in IT and HR and Shane and our consultants to get to where we are today, we are truly going to be able to, when you think back what was the original intent to what we're going to be able to build today, is a fabulous expansion of this campus that will serve Windsor residents and staff for many, many years. So obviously we're happy to answer any questions you might have on this. The goal for tonight for us was to get the approval to proceed on towards construction. I think we're hoping for the June construction beginning, and the goal here is we have to be, we're hoping to be in, January of next year, ultimately moving in middle of February at the latest.
what's the total of the square feet that we're adding? Is that the 12,930?
For the total.
Just a total of everything that we're building out there. Do we know, what is that,
So that's-
what that total is?
Be about 20,000 square feet.
It's still more than that.
David, give me a second.
1,930 and then Yeah, close to 8,000 for the rest of it, so close, just under 20,000.
Right. I mean, if Eric has 8 plus 5 is 13,
Yeah.
plus 62 on this.
29,000.
No, that's not true. It may be 19,000.
Yeah,
You don't have 20.
it's under 20,000.
No, no, no. If you-
Oh, yeah,
if
yeah,
you-
the whole
if you
campus.
just storage,
The
you-
whole campus, 29.
Okay.
So we're adding about 20,000 square feet?
No, I guess,
Or, no?
So we had
Is that-
originally budgeted for 25,000 square feet, 5,000 museum, 20 parks. We're at 29,000.
That we are adding in
Doing-
addition, when you add all
you
the
add
pieces together?
everything together.
Okay,
Public Works, HR, IT, Parks, Museum, we're right around 29.
29,235.
They never trust the rec guy, because they don't think we can.
well,
I do trust the architect back there, though. I do trust.
29, 235, look at that.
Right on the.
Parks. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to say that I'm not surprised, but I really appreciate the process you've gone through and the forward thinking on this to provide flexibility in the future. I think that's really awesome. If there's ever decisions made, I would always suggest that we err on the side of overbuild, because it's generally cheaper now than 5 years or 10 years from now. So I just want to make certain we have addressed health and safety issues and not cutting corners here that don't need to be cut right now, so.
right, thank you.
So the original intent isn't necessarily to move IT and HR immediately upon its completion?
No, it would be, I mean, clearly our first mission is getting parks by the deadline over there.
Right, right, right.
You bring up a point we talked about logistically. It's not like everybody has to be there on the first day, but I think we want to transition them over really quickly. Because, even now, when we talk about the next position I'd like to hire is a community development director, no idea where he or she would go. I mean, literally, we don't have the space. I told Scott Ballstead earlier today, like, meet with Dennis, this is gonna be your new boss, figure out where we can put him or her, because we don't have a space for them. So it would be pretty quick, but they don't have to be over there right away, but I think we would transition them over. If this building is completed, February 1st, March 15th, those two have vacated. Because really I'd like to have, work with engineers to take a look at that office and say, okay, if this is gonna be a community development office, do we need to put something in 2020 to do a little remodel in there to make it work better for that team? So, I'm gonna wanna get this going right away.
No, it seems like a very efficient use of space, that's for sure. It's kind of an odd shaped lot to begin with, to get in and out and everything else, so, good job.
Right, and you wouldn't know it from team, and I wanna thank our team. There's a lot of drainage issues, there's a lot of grade issues. So a lot of this building, Randall and his team really figuring out how we can design this thing and make it work and not spend all of our money on the site constraints. Not put so much money into, we're trying to avoid degrading the water line at all costs. We're trying to, not do new site drainage things. So there's been a lot of things that are kind of buried in here that you don't see as far as the effort of keeping those costs down low, so,
okay.
So everybody on the board is okay
It
with it?
appears that you have a consensus, yes.
Wow.
Full speed ahead, Mr. Sewell.
Thank
Well, we didn't vote, but I mean, you're getting we're
And
going
we
out.
thank you
We
for that.
can't vote. This is a work session and it's already in the budget,
It's already budgeted, so.
No one's speaking out, so that's.
Good, awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
so. Okay.
Thank you for coming.
So we'll move on to item 2 then, which is the homeowner landscaping assistance program. You're gonna carry that one too, Eric?
Yes.
Okay.
You guys want this, leave this?
Yep.
Thanks, Gary.
So as the board knows, and I don't have any visuals for this one. The board knows you just recently changed our ordinance to put the burden of back on the property owner for trees or landscaping that is in private property but then encroaching public right of way. But as part of that discussion, way back in September when we met, and then in the original discussion, I think was first reading in December, and then just this past week, we've been talking about some of the board members' concerns that came up in September, whether we should help out residents who maybe don't have the ability to pay for work on their property, and whether we should have some kind of homeowner assistance program. At the last meeting, you asked me staff to come back to discuss this further with you. So that really is the purpose of this discussion tonight, is to hopefully get a consensus and some direction of whether you want us to proceed with one of two options. The first option would be if a homeowner can't afford to do something, we could contract it out for them or do it in-house and then basically lien their property, which is what we've done historically in the past. And eventually when that property sells, we can collect the funds. It could happen quickly or it could happen long-term in terms of when we receive our money. We also kind of heard from the board, staff's thoughts were that the board was inclined to really try to make sure we were serving through a program, if you chose to do one, veterans and seniors, senior residents who really maybe don't have the ability to pay. And we also probably recognize, all of us, that the areas of concern in town really are in what we'll call Old Windsor. So Shane and I were talking, and we try to figure out, is there a way for us to really focus on those three things? Veterans, seniors in need, and Old Windsor, in terms of where we think our issues may lie today and into the future. So we put together a little bit of a design that you see in the map that's in your packet. Really trying to look at that area and determine kind of what is the typical value of a home in that area, look at median incomes, those kind of things, and maybe we should, in order, if you wanted to have, if you were so inclined to have some kind of a homeowner assistance program, focus in on some priorities. So for example, people who maybe were a veteran or they were over age 65, and if they met the threshold of $300,000 home value or less, that they got first priority towards the $10,000 that you had budgeted in this year's budget for a proposed homeowner program.
Well, and what that could look like is, we wouldn't accept applications from anybody, but senior citizens and veterans until June 1st, July 1st, whatever that is. So we basically give them first crack at
So
it.
you're talking on a voluntary basis, if they've been notified that a tree has maybe, or something needs to be taken care of?
Tangible.
And they voluntarily are doing, so this is before it went to law enforcement or ticketing or anything like that?
So they would be notified from law enforcement. They'd be given the notice that, hey, there's a nuisance violation, you need to handle it. Our hope would be, at that point, the discussion would be, I can't afford it, and then that would be, they would come to us and apply, following the guidelines that you had laid forth in the packet and that we talked about back at the last meeting. If they met the qualifications, then they could be eligible for up to $1,000 per household from there.
Yeah, and then,
Well,
If they're gonna take it,
I think
do
what
they
would
come to
happen,
you first or they go to?
they get noticed first, so the code enforcement will go out and they'll say, they'll put a notice, they'll give them a notice saying that there's something that they need to correct, like say the tree's overhanging. And then they have so many days, and it's only usually a week to correct it, or really, and then but we could give, obviously, if there's gonna be a program like this, they're gonna need to have time to apply if they qualify. So I'm seeing it could be difficult to manage it, and I'm also concerned about limiting, if you've got these indigency requirements here, but if you're gonna try to limit it to just seniors and veterans, if we're in a court proceeding situation, I don't know that we can limit it that way. So that's why I'm thinking, if it's voluntary before it gets to the court process, then the town can have some program in place possibly.
well, so the law enforcement day, do they start out just give them a warning, or do they start out with
Right, it
citations?
should be just a warning.
So I think it would,
So a warning, and
that
then
would
they have
probably
time to correct.
precipitate it. Yeah, so I think that's the solving there. I wouldn't say give them a citation and give them the
Right.
program. I think it's a warning, they say, hey, look, I've looked at it, I can't afford to do it. We say, hey, we've got this program you may qualify for, here's the application.
There just have to be a contact person so that everybody, so that law enforcement's notified that they're working with the town on this
Right,
program, so that they aren't going out and getting
Yeah,
ticketed right away.
because basically, yeah, we would want to, if somebody's non-responsive or not doing anything, you know, go to citation, but if they're working with staff and trying to figure it out, we would want to definitely not take it in until we decide.
I had a question too about the veteran and seniors. I thought that was an example of some of the type of people who might need financial assistance, but I did not make the connection that it would be limited.
Well, this was just, since it came up, this would be a preference, but it wouldn't have to be. Again, this is the board
An
program.
unemployed, single parent
Right.
maybe has, you know,
Sure.
Correct.
you know,
And then the second part, I wanna be clear about, so when we looked at, cause we thought, okay, well, if Old Town Windsor is really where we're gonna have the issues, we just wanted to get an idea of how much the house values were.
yeah.
Cause this is kind of, Mr. Sosowski had brought up, well, geez, I could almost qualify for the program, but I've got a lot of assets, and we thought, that's a good point. You know, if you're sitting on
Yeah.
a very expensive home, and, you know, you say, well, hey, I didn't have any income this year.
Right.
So that way, we thought if we could tie it to the median home value and say, if your home is worth over $300,000, you can afford this, you know, and again, that could be, you know, the board, you can look at this thing and say, well, I think it's 320 or whatever, but it'd be another check for us on the income side, so it'd be kind of an asset check, where we have the income information, but we also have the asset to say, sir, you may not have any income, but your house is worth $1 million, you can cut down your tree.
Are we gonna make them also provide the estimates? So that
They would
that
have
we
to do some
see,
legwork.
we'll wanna see, we just don't want people who just automatically think they can't afford it, right? Well, I think we have to put it on them to have gone out and get 1, 2, or however, whatever that number is, but they have to get a couple of estimates so that we even know if this is a real problem or not.
Yeah.
And they have to do the work first and get reimbursed.
Yes, I think yes and no. I think if, for example, and I'm using an example, let's say with a $2,000 cost to bring down a tree, we could pay the 1,000, we could pay the 2,000 and give them a $1,000 scholarship and lien the house for 1,000 if we had to, if it was that.
But it may be something where we talk to the contractor, so obviously the tree's gone, we're not gonna just write them out a check for 2,000 and say, okay, take care of your tree. But yeah, Eric had mentioned, I talked about the other day, you know, really, if the tree costs more and they don't have enough money to do any of it, we still may lien. So instead of leaning $2,000, maybe we give them the scholarship and only lien $1,000.
That was a question I had too, I think it'd be a combination.
Well, it
It
would
just
be,
takes $1,000 off the lien.
yeah, that's
Right.
basically what it
We're
is.
not gonna give them $1,000.
Unless they say, yeah, no, we wouldn't.
Gotcha.
They're not
Yeah.
gonna get the cash.
Or is this even something we really want? Cause I think last
Yeah.
time you mentioned, maybe we try it first without and even see if it's a problem, but then if we have a problem, we should have a backup plan. So that folks come, we would know maybe how we're gonna handle that or something, I don't
I'm
know.
willing to try it, it's only $10,000. And I can picture a small home, an elder person there, and maybe the cost is $750 or something. Maybe it's not an entire tree, maybe it's whatever. So I can see some situations where it would apply pretty quickly, I think. I'm willing to give it a try and see what happens.
Now, you're not gonna mention the financial, when you give them the warning or citation or whatever, we're not gonna talk about financial aid, they'd have to approach us.
That's right.
Yes,
And they-
correct.
Yeah, I was working some of the process, you know.
Well, I think as sometimes we get out of town, people say, look, I can't cut down the tree, I don't have the money to do it. Okay, well, hey, we.
Exactly, we had that at the rec center, where people come in and say, they did a tour, they love it, maybe they bought their one-day
Don't promote
pass.
the rec center right now, that's inappropriate, Eric.
It's already.
But they have a scholarship program, so people go, I remember some cases where grandma's there and she's bringing the grandkids in going, I really can't afford this, and we say, well, you know, we have a scholarship program, you know.
And
You may
it's
qualify
similar,
for
like,
this.
Well, would it be available to the court then? I mean, if they came through the court system and they didn't know about this program and they're coming through the court system and they obviously fit all the qualifications, would that be something that
Well,
we could offer to them then? through the-
well, I think it'd be something you can let them know, there's a program, contact Eric, but I mean, I would hope we'd have this set up to where we're not getting all the way to court without them knowing about this program. you know, so, I don't know, cause really, I can't remember if it was Mr. Ben or Dr. Jones who suggested it, but I think when he suggested, you know, do we just go into this year and just try it out, and if there's an issue, come back and let the board know. You know, we may be overthinking this, we may just do the program, and then if we have a couple indigent people that can't pay, we can come back and let the board know. Or we could just kind of roll through with this program and try to, you know, address it as we go if we see these little bumps.
I'm listening to the process though. Someone gets a ticket, a warning.
First.
They'll get a warning.
Do they call the park? Do they call you? Do they call
They're,
the
they're,
chief?
no, they're dealing with the code enforcement office.
So they're gonna call the police department, and they're saying, I can't afford this.
Then the
So
code
the police
enforcement,
department could say,
And they
you can apply.
they could refer, it. they could
So
refer it to
probably
us.
it's not gonna get to the court.
Should
It should.
But if they don't call the police and they don't do the trimming,
Then the
then
ticket
there's gonna be a
process.
ticket, they're gonna come to you. At that point, you're gonna say, why? And they're gonna say, I can't afford it. I'm just trying to walk this through, picture how it's gonna work. Then you can
Yeah,
say,
that's
you can
how it
apply.
You can still offer, or make them aware of it, if it
It
gets to
seems
that
like
point.
it's simple.
Hopefully, there's not a lot of people, but of course.
Nothing's-
Right.
Now, the
Makes
warning,
perfect sense.
or whatever, and now, did you say,
Yeah.
we give them 5 days?
Well, I think it's a week, but
That's a
I mean,
long tight, isn't
we
it?
can
That's
give,
really
I mean,
tear a big tree
usually
down?
this is for like weed cleanup, or you know, you need to just trim something up. That's usually really what that's for, so if it's in a tree situation, we probably have to expand that so that they
Yeah,
have
probably
time
like
to
14 or 21
especially
days,
since we're
yeah.
requiring a contractor, you know, so
Mhm.
they'd have to have time to
Contact
contact
contractors.
someone and make some progress.
Yes.
Well, and sometimes these are things that the homeowner can address. Sometimes it's gonna be just little branches over the sidewalk, and they just need to get out there and just clip them, so. You
Where
know,
do they
we're-
take their brush when they clip them?
Don't.
Too soon.
That's
Okay.
another-
I like the,
They take them to Hageman's.
Oh,
I like that.
And then they send us the $10.
Then they can use their coupon.
So I like the fact that, I like the asset thing where we look at the value of the home, because, you know, like
Yeah.
David brought up. But, what about the map? Do we have to have the map? I think like,
No, the map was just for
Okay.
us to
Reference, yeah.
reference and try to determine.
yeah.
And
And I
again,
look at my district and
My
maybe
neighborhood's
like,
in there.
or my neighborhood in particular, like, we have patio homes, but they're not necessarily low income.
Right.
But we do have some elderly,
That might
there's
be
families in
HOA.
there too.
Right.
But they're, all theirs is included in their HOA dues. so we
Correct,
don't
I
have to
think
worry about it,
the
yeah.
majority of recently built Windsor won't fall into this issue
Yeah.
I don't,
anyway.
yeah, I think,
but-
I think it's
Yeah.
exactly what you
Yeah.
said at first, which
Yeah.
is more of our old
Yeah.
town, which is
Right.
gonna
Yeah. I
need
agree.
more.
They're not in HOAs
Yeah.
or metro
Well,
districts.
I'm thinking like my
older
house is
people,
20 years
older
old.
vegetation,
Yep,
Correct.
yeah, exactly.
so all those things seem to fit. So if, again, if somebody is in Water Valley and they qualify for this, their house meets the income and they do, we wouldn't
Okay.
preclude anybody.
That's
We just thought that the old
Okay.
town.
Yeah.
Chances are gonna be pretty
represented.
slim that Water Valley or even my neighborhood would ever use it, yeah.
Can I throw out a weird question here? Let's say somebody has a big tree in the older part of town, and it's one where the root system over the years has buckled the sidewalk and everything, where now the sidewalk is actually a problem.
Mhm.
The tree is completely, compliant, but the sidewalk got damaged as a result of the tree just doing its normal thing over all the years, planted so close to the sidewalk, et cetera. Who fixes the sidewalk? Is that a town thing? Is that a homeowner? Your vegetation caused this problem, it's on your property? Just like they have to shovel their sidewalk if the sidewalk buckles because of their, I'm kind of looking in a gray area thing here, but I know this would probably.
I would wanna ask Chief of how we've handled that. I know how we handled that in my last jurisdiction, but I'm not sure how, especially with the overhang tree.
I believe, we can be wrong, we need to check, but I believe it's the town's responsibility for the sidewalk.
Yes, we changed that years ago, it
Correct.
was not, and
It
we
wasn't
had,
some
remember,
board
probably,
change.
you probably remember those days, Doc Jones,
Oh.
when we assessed all those people with their sidewalk fees, and we got,
100%.
they all had to bring them, because we had a lot of cracked and sidewalks that were doing this, and then we changed that, it is now a town.
But the root's still there, so what, do they start whacking the root to level the sidewalk, or what? I mean,
Yeah.
then kill the tree.
Good, you killed the
Yeah,
tree.
and there are, trees that are really appropriate to be next to the sidewalk, you know, the root ball stays pretty intact and they go down, and trees that are horrible next to the right of way, so. I tell you, I mean, really, it's, you ruined our sidewalk, remove your tree or we will and charge you is, should be the answer for the tree, because even if you replace that sidewalk, in 2 years, it's gonna be blocked again, and you've got a tripping hazard, and you've got not only liability, but then you've got, even if somebody doesn't sue you, well, if you hear some grandma trips and skins her knee, I mean, how do you feel good about that, or breaking a hip? So,
Wheelchairs need to get around.
right, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, a bug sidewalk is a trip hazard and it catches people, so really the right answer is, you need to remove your tree, this is a hazard, it is causing damage to our sidewalk.
Which brings up a growing problem, I think, with metro districts and HOAs that are requiring trees in the little green median by the sidewalk between the street. There's no
And it's
regulation.
kinda crazy, I always wonder.
It's really crazy.
My neighbor's
As
like
far as I
that.
understand, no real understanding of what type of trees or who's gonna be responsible in 10 years when those things grow up.
Yeah, the state forest service has a
Yeah.
great list of trees, and they
Yeah.
even do workshops around the state.
But it's
I-
voluntary.
Yeah.
I mean, metro districts,
Right,
are
right, but I mean, they've got a
requiring
list
things
of like appropriate right-of-way trees.
yeah,
People, it's been a problem, my neighborhood's sitting at
Yeah.
20-year mark,
yeah.
and there's a big push
Mine too.
because the branches sticking out, people not being able to walk down the sidewalk,
Right.
hitting their head and running into branches.
Right.
Well, and in your neighborhood, Ken, I mean, it's
Yeah.
trees lining the
See,
sidewalks
it's
and.
20 years old, so.
Yeah.
And Ridge West
It
actually,
hasn't been a problem yet, but you can just see, I mean, it's a growing problem.
Yeah,
I'm not
that,
proud about the list.
some HOAs have taken care of it,
You have
even
to
though
do it
some
twice.
homeowners.
Went over something.
I got it, I just.
Yeah, even though it's a homeowner's responsibility, some HOAs like Ridge West, which is just up the hill from me, the HOA actually came out and said, we're gonna do a one-time, and they went through and hired somebody who trimmed all those trees along the sidewalk in the entire neighborhood, but that had to cost a ton of money to.
I was more thinking about the same area of town we've been talking about here, where
Right.
they don't have the HOA or the metro district,
Right,
and their
exactly.
tree has caused the
They
sidewalk
have
to
30,
move.
40, 50-year-old trees.
And I'm glad to bring in that history
Yeah.
though, of what
Yeah.
has happened in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah. How,
Angry
any
mob.
idea of how, let's talk about the old, how many of these cases come up a year now?
We did about 25 last year. That increased probably from 10 the previous year.
And do
It
we,
has really picked up
that's,
lately.
I'm wondering, do we anticipate being more aggressive?
If you want them to.
We as a staff have not, and I have not directed my staff. in a-
I think it's neighbors
Yeah, it's
turning,
the neighbors.
or
It-
neighbors
it is
either
not.
trying to get people in, or,
That's
yeah,
exactly what's happening.
that's what's
The
happening.
police department's
Yeah.
only looking at sightline issues,
Safety
at
issues
safety
first.
issue stuff,
Okay.
and our department's not
Neighbor
driving around
complaint,
looking at
okay.
them. You're exactly right, Mary.
Okay.
It is
You're talking about
residents.
enforcement.
That's what I've
And-
heard
and-
the most of, is folks complaining about
Oh,
their
yeah.
neighbors.
And again, the priority in this came, you know, we had a couple meetings on, where we're protecting neighborhoods, and they're talking about sightline issues with trees, and so, Chief did have his folks going and looking at sightlines and really being proactive when it's just straight up public safety. We can't see around your bushes now, sir, kind of thing, but anything else.
Prioritize.
Yeah, so we did a staff
Safety
that, we have one arborist with a small staff, we can't send Ken down,
That's
up
right.
and down streets today.
Mhm.
So it really is,
It's
Do we get
residents
more
letting
cases?
us
No, I
don't
think
think so.
Ken is sending a pretty detailed letters on what they need to do,
Yeah.
to clean it up, and I really haven't seen any of those that I can
Right.
recall.
So most of them are self,
Mhm.
they're taking care of themselves for right
It's
now.
just a brush cleanup around signs and there, so that blocks your way from the.
But also remember that if it was under the old ordinance, we were also taken care of. If we would ask them to do them, but if
Oh,
they
yeah,
didn't,
yeah.
we would do it. And so now we.
But this still isn't gonna help somebody, cause at one of my coffees, somebody called, they're not in the towns right away, the trees are, they're backed along like a back fence and they're dead, but so the neighbor's just worried about if they fall into their property, but I would imagine we can't do anything about that, cause it's
That's
not in the
sewer.
town,
Correct.
it's right away at
Versus
all.
neighbor.
that's right,
Comes later.
that's right.
No flood zone.
So yeah, it's not, it's basically like, yeah, if the tree falls and damages your, you know, fence, you can sue them, and, I know that's a horrible answer, but there really is no enforcement from the town standpoint. you know, I think if we saw a tree that was really a clear presentation, I think, you know, we could have Ken write a letter, say, look, you should remove this tree, it's a problem, but
And we are doing that, we're sending
Yeah.
out notification letters, but,
And then what will you do, so if you don't get any response, you would go ahead and remedy it ourselves and then pursue for collections? I mean, like, if the party, so like, in the instance, on my block where there's a tree, that's not, I mean, according, as far as I know, that's not in my name, that's in somebody else's
Yes.
name. So when you serve somebody, you're gonna serve, and they're not even, I don't think, in the state, or I don't know where they are, right? So if they don't ever answer you, you're just gonna cut it, would you cut it down and then try to,
So in that instance, I believe we would either do it ourselves if we could, and lien the property.
Or get the adjoining property owner to take it down.
Yeah, that's my preference.
Or that.
it's a civil matter between the parties.
Or we would,
There's this infamous tree at Third and Garden that's actually kind of the
It could be a team building event.
we call it the pay it downward program. You pay it downward that tree.
and I mean,
Or we hire a
and
contractor
I
and
might
then
be
leave
an
it.
unusual case, I don't know how many other folks have trees that you're gonna not get a response from because these folks don't even live here, they're not part of the actual property,
Yeah.
they'll just ignore you,
right.
I'm gonna guess.
They wouldn't even know if it's cut down.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have out-of-state property owners, a lot of times you just can't work
On vacant land.
when they're held in an LLC and maybe it's going to their
The
attorney's
attorney.
trust or something, you just can't get anywhere with them. They
Yeah.
just ignore anything. If it's certified mail, they know good enough to not open it. You know? So sometimes it's just,
Well, and you're doing that property owner a favor, because if that tree would fall over, it is their liability, and by you taking it down, you're preventing that liability from occurring, which is the brain damage and everything else ensued, you know,
When he tries to sell it and he sees the lien,
Correct.
that his attention.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got nothing really to sell, cause all he owns is like the town right away, there's nothing there. I mean, it got something that got missed, obviously, at some, I don't even know what his name it's in. So I don't-
Yours is in a corporation
Yeah,
name on that, cause
Oh,
the one in your corner is just unique because I don't know how that little strip of land got tied to that property.
it's like a little surveying error.
Yeah,
yeah,
And
it's
so-
weird.
and I think though on your case, on that tree, we have decided that it actually is encroaching over into the right of way area, so we'll be able to figure out a way to take care of it.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just not as quickly as I think you would like.
It's nice.
No, it's not me, I mean, I actually get people knocking on my door going,
Cause it is,
Your tree.
do you know that you got, and I'm like, yes.
it's not your
Is
tree.
that
If it-
massive?
if it it's a $2,000 plus job, and
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a big
when you've been
geez,
paying
yeah.
college tuition and other things, you
Yeah.
don't pay whoever to cut down a tree for
Do you know
That's
what
not your tree.
program we have?
And it's not my tree, and it's not my tree.
Bottom
We're
line.
gonna have this
So-
problem.
You qualify for our,
It's not my tree, so.
You'll put a sign there, it's not my tree.
That's usually just have a sign at the door, it's not my tree.
If there's a tree on a property, I'm trying to think how to explain this without bringing up names. Boardwalk Park, the
Mhm.
property right next to it,
Mhm.
private, is large. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, fire hazard.
A big tree that's kind of split like that.
Yeah, there's a fire, it's a fire hazard.
Why?
Because it hangs dead wood, lightning, kids hang out there and do a variety of things.
Going to
including
start
smoking.
fires.
Yeah, and they start fires in the grass there sometimes, occasionally. So if there's, you know, there's unique situations, it's not on our property, it does hang over our property, it's a fire danger probably. Do we have any right to do anything on
Well, I would just say, I think it'd be similar to if park staff noticed something, if staff noted it's a tree they were concerned with, you know, Ken is all things to all people, so I think
it? I
we
know,
would
yeah.
get a hold of him and have him take a look at it, and if we thought it was a danger, we would try to track down the property owner and let him know, so that's kind of, to answer it roundabout, I think we would go through the same process with that as we do with others.
They get a
It's not a
warning.
high enough priority probably.
Right. Okay, so I think all I heard from board preferences, if we move forward with the program, let's not maybe put in any preference for seniors or veterans. I mean, that's kind of who we'd like it to go to, but really, if you come in, first come, first serve, And we'll try it out with this 10,000. I think you guys like the idea of the $300,000 and less for valuation of the house. We'll use that with the other criteria. And then, of course, we can report back to the board. I think more so quickly if we actually have a lot of people coming in, so, geez, 10,000 may not be enough. Otherwise, we'll give you at least one report this year to let you know, no takers, one taker, whatever that is. Okay?
Okay,
Great, thank you.
sounds good.
Thank you for looking at it.
So that's all we have.
I had one question before we
So we
get to
are
future
done.
meetings. This was on Shane's weekly update. Number 65, it's in the human resources category. It was about the contract with Gallup for the employee engagement survey and engagement champion training. I didn't have any clue what that was.
Sure, so it's employee engagement survey, so I would tell you first that it's not tied at all to the wage study. This is nothing to do with Candy Sedarius or the wage study. So this is basically, we would do probably in February, send out a survey to every employee where they can anonymously respond. We haven't worked on those questions yet, but it may be things like,
Emails, we're gonna try to meet after
when's the last time your supervisor told you good job?
Oh,
Or,
good,
you're
okay.
enjoying your work. So it's really just a way for management
They
to
know
look
we
to
all
say, if we see any problems in a specific department, like if we had